Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the JMA Connection, where when the news breaks, we come together to make meaning out of it, to make you see through the lenses of journalism analysis of exactly how this affects you, how it affects your day to day life. Today, I'll be unveiling the first edition of our weekly news talk. As I announced earlier, this week this news talk is going to be weekly and is going to be posted every Sunday. But exceptionally, because of happenings yesterday, Sunday, the 23rd of November 2025, I exceptionally decided to push this for today. So, in this inaugural episode of our news talk, I'll be looking at poverty as a public policy in Cameroon. Recall, I've mentioned several times that in Cameroon, poverty is a public policy. It is intentionally enforced and enforced to very good effect. Generally, the business of government is to bring about prosperity, is to improve the livelihoods of the people, is to make the people, see their lives improving, changing year in, year out. But if you look at Cameroon, from the time Mr. Paul Biya took power in 1982 in the Republic of Cameroon right up to this day, the country has been rather on a backward trend. Focus has rather been on ensuring that he and his system stay in power the longest possible and not on improved livelihoods for the people. And to get to that, he understood very quickly enough. Paul Biya understood very quickly enough that in politics all means are good, provided they are used to good effect. That is what Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher, says in his book Les Mains Sales. And so, therefore, poverty has been a conscious policy at the center of Mr. Paul Biya's actions in Cameroon since 1982. And this has reduced the people to a level of dependency never before seen anywhere in the world. And this experiment in Cameroon is also already being conducted in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa because these leaders talk among themselves. When Paul Biya boasted before a French media audience during the visit of a French president, I guess that was François Hollande in Yaoundé, where he said, "Ne dure pas au pouvoir qui veut, mais dure qui peut." That doesn't stay so long in power who wishes, but stays long who can. He meant every word in that sentence. And so, I'd like us, therefore, to delve down quietly into how he has managed to reduce usually valiant people into, bare expressions of who they really are today. We will look at the framework of how dictators weaponize poverty, and then when that is done, I will narrow down now to the Cameroon situation and make you see in your day to day life exactly how poverty is implemented as a policy. You will feel it, you will touch it, you will understand it, and then you will come to that realization that if you decide not to fight today and think that you're waiting maybe for 2032 or you're waiting for next year or the other year to put up a fight, trust me, you are barely postponing it and you are giving them more opportunities to make the situation become even more complicated for anyone to put up a fight. This is how the people of the southern Cameroon, of the southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, through a lot of political education, came to that awareness that having anything to do with the Republic of Cameroon, where this policy has serious roots, will mean that we are doomed because that system has no vision for development. We are unevenly yoked, and therefore we will never be able to change the way things are happening in our society. That is why, as Southern Cameroonians, as Ambazonians, we have been fighting for 9 years to get Cameroon and that kind of ugly system out of our land. So, to delve down into the business of this conversation, and I encourage you to watch all the way to the end. And then I like to get, your contribution in terms of comments, so that we continue to carry out this debate and political education to sensitize, mobilize ourselves, and be able to stand strong in our continuous fight for a better life. And so, therefore, like I said, this episode explores how dictators intentionally enforce or manipulate poverty to weaken populations, suppress resistance, and maintain long-term political control. Poverty becomes more than just a social condition. It becomes a deliberate political strategy. So how do they do this? First, they ensure economic dependence. That is, creating a population that cannot risk rebellion. So, dictators often ensure that citizens rely on the regime for basic survival, food rations, subsidized housing, cash stipends, or government jobs. By offering just enough to survive, the regime creates a system of dependency that discourages dissent. When people fear losing access to essential resources, they are less likely to challenge authority. And this is fundamental. The other day, you were watching images of Paul Atanganji, Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, first in Gaoundéré, then in Garoua, in Marwa, and of course in Bafoussam, distributing 2,000 francs each to commercial motorbike riders. A lot of these commercial motorbike bike riders are degree holders. Some of them even hold masters, but they've searched for jobs and searched until they are tired. They cannot have anything to do, and so they now do what? They now rely on the informal economy, motorbike riding, for survival. And now these are the group of people who easily become really angry. But to make sure that these people, continue to support a system that is its own undoing, what do? They come once in a while with this kind of cash handouts, as I just mentioned, these cash stipends. Not much that can change your lives, that can make you go from it to become dependent, but just enough to keep you loyal, just enough to keep you alive, just enough to keep you becoming that machine that they grind year in, year out to continue to stay in power and deceive you that they think about you. That's exactly what they do. Because when they have reduced you right to that point, 2,000 fans becomes to you almost like 1 million. But that's not what it's supposed to be. The next thing that such dictatorial regimes do, they destroy the middle class. A strong middle class is typically the foundation of political opposition. This is clear. So dictators weaken the middle class by nationalizing industries, overtaxing small businesses, restricting private enterprise, and forcing professionals into exile. Sounds familiar? Look at the situation in Cameroon. You start a business with a capital of 3 million. Before you know it, taxation lands in. They don't even give you that period of grace to take root, to begin to do something. Taxation lands in, and they tell you that this is what you are supposed to pay. Sometimes they tell you that you even started much earlier. And what do they want to do to you? They call it in the Cameroon parlance redressement fiscal. Before you know it, a business with capital of 3 million is suddenly owing taxes up to about 10-15 million. So what are you forced to do? You are forced to start negotiating, to start bribing, and at the end of the day, you are only going to survive or you get choked out of the business. But if you have capital far beyond that, and they see that you are going to seriously get roots, one other thing they do is they will cause you to begin contributing to the political system in place. If you fail to contribute to the political system in place, they choke you out. This system is called, you either are with us or you are against us. You either belong or we choke you out of existence and out of business. And for professionals who can become so recalcitrant, they force you into exile. That's why if you look at it today, Cameroon's diaspora legion is made up of millions of people who ran away from the country because they could not survive it. So without economic stability, citizens lack the capacity and organizational power necessary to mobilize for change. And then the other thing that they do, strategic corruption as a tool of control. Did you hear that? Strategic corruption as a tool of control. Corruption is intentionally embedded within authoritarian systems. Dictators allow bureaucrats, police, and political elites to exploit citizens financially. Every day, people face extortion and bribery for basic services, trapping them in ongoing poverty. This financial exhaustion limits their ability to organize or to resist. So look at Cameroon. See what happens. In the southern Cameroons, for example, when the police, the gendarmes, the B feel that they are broke, what do? They go out there and decide that they are going to issue out collective punishment. They organize that their nonsense they call Kale Kale. And they will capture 1,000 or more people, go and detain you for no good reason, and start telling you you're going to be charged with collaborating with Amber, and start telling you you are going to be charged with terrorism, and they are going to send you to Yaoundé. You'll be court-martialed before the military tribunal, and you will rot in jail. But if you don't want that to happen, there is something you can do. So people start paying 1 million, 500,000, 1.5 million to regain their freedom. The system knows this. The system sees this. The system coyly encourages this. Reason? Because when these people in uniform are openly doing all of those things and all or not, and then they are doing it with impunity, they owe their loyalty to the system. They will do everything to keep that system in place because that system benefits them. That's one. Two, you recall the stories we heard about one what's that his name again, is it Tabeta or whatever, who is in Kribi, a colonel who was in Kribi. I've forgotten his name, but it should be from Santa, who I don't know if recently he's been made a general. The gentleman that tortured Longe Longe, and Longe Longe made that public with his pictures all over the place. That gentleman was based in Douala, and knowing that a lot of business princes and princesses of southern Cameroon's extraction had escaped to Douala, running away from the war. What did he do? He and his gang identified these people as their target. So once in a while, when they were broke, they will capture 3, 4, 5 of them, put them in a truck, and start driving towards Yaoundé. That they're taking them to Yaoundé because they have got tip-offs that they are the major sponsors of the ongoing insurrection in the southern Cameroons. And so you see yourself already being taken towards Yaoundé. They do this intentionally. And somewhere towards Idea, you are forced to negotiate. You are forced to plead. You are forced to offer something. At the end of the day, some offer 3 million. Some offered 5 million. Some offered 2 million. Those that the suspected had more money, they will take 10 million from you to set you free. These stories are out there. Everything has been put on the marketplace. Was that colonel in the Marine, was he ever interrogated? Has any investigation ever been conducted into that? Never. It will never happen. He was working with Kenebamkwi. So you take a careful look at all of this, you understand how the system works. So it actually justifies what I just mentioned here about strategic corruption as a tool of control. You find a chief of service whose monthly salary is 150,000. But you find that chief of service building a mansion worth hundreds of millions. No one opens up an investigation. No one asks what is going on. No one cares. What happens? The people are celebrated and you are welcomed into the ruling party where you begin making contributions. You look at the just past presidential election, so what happened? Every civil servant that holds a position, right down to the position of deputy chief of service. You saw lists circulating on social media with people's names there and amounts that they contributed for the election of Paul Biya. They made as if it was not obligatory, but you knew that it was obligatory for you to do because everyone's hands are dirty. And so you want to make sure that you keep this system in place to protect you in the dirt that you are doing, which is benefiting you, but while the general society is crashing. According to the Cameroon's Public Service Code, the public service is supposed to be apolitical. The only political positions in every government ministry in Cameroon begin from Secretary of State right up to Minister. But positions from Deputy Chief of Service right up to Secretary General at the ministry, these are career public service positions, enabling that the public service will function and function very well even in the absence of the political appointees who will be secretaries of state and ministers. But hell no, for this system to survive, it also has to enroll the public service. Everyone in the public service, right up to the position of deputy chief of service, you are brought to believe that you don't deserve the position you have. You have that position and you are keeping it simply because you have to be loyal to a system. And if your loyalty to that system collapses, no way, nothing is going to work. And then the next thing that they underfund public services to limit social mobility. That's underfunding public services to limit social mobility. So dictators weaken education, weaken healthcare, weaken infrastructure and transportation to keep citizens poor, unhealthy, and undereducated. Reduced social mobility prevents people from gaining the skills and resources needed to challenge the regime. A population struggling to survive rarely has the time or energy for political activism. Now, I will take you to a document that I had previously shared, known as the Strategy for the Conservation of Power in Cameroon from Generation to Generation. Just a little section of it will let you understand exactly what I mean here. There is this section of it on what is called development. That is Article 40. Under development, you have Article 40. It says, the desire to enrich oneself has led to embezzlement of public funds and a very unbalanced development of the country. Today, that's Article 41. The Bamileke areas are at an unacceptable level of development. We have an obligation to slow down this development. To do so, we must appoint special sub-prefects, that is DIOs, whose mission will be to destabilize the development committees that are swarming there. That's called the development organizations. You know, like what we really have the development association. You have Bagda, or you had ASCUDA, Action Social, Cultural, and Development Association. They have to slow down the activities of these development associations, make them less strong so that they don't fill the gap that government is creating and creating on purpose. And they say in Article 42, if we leave the Bamilekes free to develop, we run the risk of other ethnic groups making demands that could challenge our power. And so they say, as the Bamilekes have the capacity to develop themselves without waiting for the state, we must create the administrative conditions that must be met before any act of development can take place. For example, if they want to build drinking water points, we will define the administrative procedures that will force them to abandon the project. And if you take a careful look at this, you will realize that if the people get up in their community, they say, we want to develop our road. We have contributed money. We want to maintain this road. They tell you, you must obtain permission from the government to maintain your own road. So self-reliant development is not allowed to thrive because the decision for those projects sometimes to be abandoned the way they are is conscious. That is why you see it would take the Cameroon government 15 years to build some rubbish they call superhighway linking Yaoundé to Douala. Because if there is a good highway linking Yaoundé to Douala, it will ease transactions, it will ease transportation, it will ease businesses, it will promote enrichment, it will make the middle class to become rich. And if the middle class becomes rich, they may easily slip off their control. So they make sure those things don't work. If they construct farm to market roads, it will cause the local people who should depend on those political elites who come once in a while with a bag of rice, with 2 bags of salt, and all of those things to simply become irrelevant. If they allow the electricity sector to generate so many megawatts of energy out of the over 120 megawatts potential that the country has, people will develop a lot of businesses that depend on energy. There will be enrichment. It will reduce poverty, and that does not all go well for the system. I want you to know when I'm doing this so that you understand that you are under a satanic system that has one goal only: maintaining itself in place. Your well being is not their concern. So if you think ever that you need to change things, it is always, the time is always right to do right. This is absolutely important. And then I will come to another aspect of it. Besides strategic corruption, so you see, there are people that were appointed into offices. For my 19 years of work with a lot of top public functionaries in Cameroon, I sat in offices with senior civil servants anxious to change things, and I could see tears running down their cheeks, frustrations because they have brought people from outside, negotiated agreements, built contracts, and they were expecting to have this executed to change the livelihoods of the people. But along the line, everything is blocked. They don't understand why. You have a concern come, they say we are ready to invest $100 billion in this or that sector. And the minister stands up and tells them, okay, what is my personal share in it? I need $5 billion for myself, me and myself alone. And at the end of the day, the projects collapse. And you want to cry, they come and ask you, qui t'a demandé de travailler? Who asked you to work? You were appointed here to eat, to get your share, not to work. Talk to many top functionaries in Yaoundé, they will tell you they are familiar with these expressions. Qui t'a demandé de travailler? This is what it is. And so the more you understand this, the better for people to see exactly what you are locked in. So you know that this poverty that you are seeing now is going to be generational. It's going to be generational. That system has understood this is the way it can keep itself in power, and there is going to be no relinquishing. Not today, not yesterday, not the day before yesterday. And this will be true across several other countries in Africa south of the Sahara. The Cameroon situation is symptomatic, enabling simply for other people to see and then look now into your own communities to try to understand what I'm talking about. Another aspect is I already talked about underfunding, public services to limit social mobility. Then the next thing they will do is weaponizing scarcity. Shortages of food, fuel, electricity, or currency manipulation are often deliberate. By creating crisis conditions, dictators can force citizens to depend on the regime for access to essential goods. Scarcity keeps people in a constant state of anxiety and distraction. And then there is targeted repression of poor communities. Note this: targeted repression of poor communities. Poor communities often experience the harshest repression: police brutality, arbitrary arrest, or military presence. Because poverty already weakens these communities, additional repression ensures that resistance cannot grow. Poverty and fear work together to suppress political dissent. Look across Cameroon. Go to the various communities. This is what is happening on a daily basis. You see, for example, there's political upheaval on the side of the Republic of Cameroon. They get up, they have said, on the day they are going to proclaim the results of the elections, there will be demonstrations on the 27th of October. And so what happens? The police get up from nowhere. They go into I guess that leading. There were 3 days of ghost towns and demonstrations leading to the 27th of October. The police decide get up early in the morning in Biya and go and attack residences and capture over 500 youth who did nothing. Go hold them in detention. At the end of the day, take their identification papers and cause them to sign undertakings to say they will not participate in any demonstrations. Oh, don't think that they just let them go like that. A lot of them had to pay. 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, whatever who had. This is exactly what is happening. And then the next thing, what do? Limit education and information. Dictators control education systems, restrict media access, and censor the internet to limit critical thinking and political awareness. Low literacy and limited access to truthful information reinforce authoritarian narratives, making citizens more dependent on state propaganda. Of course, do I need to talk about CRTV? Or do I need to talk about Cameroon Tribune? When you watch them, when you watch CRTV or you read Cameroon Tribune, I mean, the kind of things you hear there always make you feel that all other media outlets are garbage, and they tell you that is the only source of official information. That's the only place where you should get information. But at the same time, they muzzle the private and independent media. This is the approach that they take. First, because of the absence of a strong private sector, the private press in Cameroon is not really private. Why? Because they depend on government agencies for advertising. This is the truth. They depend on government ministries for advertising. Advertising is mainly institutional, clearly controlled by the government. And because of that, through these advertising and government aid, stipend to the private press, they succeed in also controlling the narrative in the private media that's supposed to be independent. Those that still struggle still constantly come under muzzling. You notice recently that in Douala, they had to summon the Director General or CEO of Equinox Radio and Television and that of Balafon. They do this constantly. First, they make sure that resources that can sustain the media houses are scarce. Secondly, they try to build a kind of system of patronage. Thirdly, they use force if you are not ready to cooperate despite all these pressures. And so limiting education also is another way of destroying the people. That is why in this document, that's Article 45, that's the strategy for the conservation of power in Cameroon from generation to generation by the Paul Biya regime. Under education, they say, Article 45, no one should forget that the destiny of a people is a fruit of its education system. Article 46, we must lower the quality of our country's schools and send our children to study in countries with good education systems. There, they will come back to run the country with sure peace of mind because they will generally be the best, be above others. They are above the rest of the masses. And then under Article 47, they say, under the guise of education for all, we need to make schools cheaper but lower their quality. This will avoid harmful intellectual competition with their children. And so in their conclusion, they say, like father, like son, for eternity. That's under Article 48. But then, there's something else that they said. That was right in Article 2, under the top secret, the protocol. Under Article 2, they said, our preservation of power requires that we be replaced by our descendants. And for that to happen, they must be almost the only ones in the major schools of political management in the country. Now, in line with this, I saw this post by Boris Berthold, which is an excerpt of the entrance examination into ENAM. And he said, concours d'entrée à l'ENAM. Name number 1 is Songami Lyonga Ekose. Of course, that's the daughter of the Minister of Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga. Number 2, and then that's in position number 7, Beko, that's fille du colonel Beko, that's the daughter of Colonel Beko Abondo, the commander of the Presidential Guard. And then position number 9, Abdoulaye Alexandra, the fille Eyebe Aboudi, that's the Minister of Cadastre, that's the Minister of Land Tenure. And then in position number 12, Etoga Bijan Cheryl Pascal, daughter of Galax Etoga, the Secretary of State in charge of the Gendarmerie. Then position number 15, Okie Ekoko, the son of the director general of of the petroleum products stabilization company CSPH, Okie Johnson Doe. Position number 19, Allo Edugil Cyril, fils du directeur général du budget, of course, son of the director general of the budget at the Ministry of Finance, Cyril Edu Allo. Position number 20, Fote Mbakop Philippe Daniel, son of Honorable Fote Jean-Claude, CPD and parliamentarian. 26, Lecout Ivan Cedric, son of the current Minister of Public Service, Joseph Anderson Lay. Number 28, Mo Yvette Kien, of course, the daughter of the current Director General of the Treasury at the Ministry of Finance. Position number 29, Ali Bashi Halima Kange, daughter of Honorable Ali Bashi, CPDM Member of Parliament. And then, of course, position number 30, Nana Ohana Loic Steve, nephew of Nana Ernest Obama. So you look at this. This is from Zimanto. Now you look at this excerpt. I'm just reading this excerpt to take you to understand what is in this document, the strategy for the maintenance of power from generation to generation and so forth. You understand, therefore, how the policy of poverty is used to hold people down and to limit any form of insurrection that can question the system. And then it goes to economic punishment for political opposition. Opposing the government often comes with significant financial consequences, including job loss, frozen bank accounts, denied licenses, or confiscation of property. Such punishment serves as a warning to others, discouraging political organization or resistance. So, do you now doubt why you cannot have a credible opposition in Cameroon? Do you now doubt why? So, that tool called redressement fiscal, don't forget, in 1992, the West Province, at the time was the West Province of Cameroon, they voted nearly 100%. I say nearly, it wasn't 100%, but it's just to say they voted essentially for the SDF party's leader, Ni John Frundi. And so, because the Bamileke people are the engine of the economy, what the government simply did was they sent on what they call economic punishment. Almost all the companies were put under what is called redressement fiscal. And now all the business executives from the West, every election cycle, have to make sure that the CPDM candidates, whether it be mayor, whether it be parliamentarian, whether it be president, wins in their in their localities, whether it is village, whether it is subdivision, whether it is division, or things like that, because they need that in order to protect their businesses from attacks by the government. And in this way, they continue to maintain themselves in power. Last but not least, you understand why poverty is an effective tool for dictators. By manipulating economic conditions, dictators maintain power through fear, dependency, and scarcity. Poverty becomes a deliberate mechanism for weakening society's ability to resist. Understanding these strategies, therefore, is crucial for developing effective solutions, supporting advocacy efforts, and fostering global awareness as you set out, therefore, to fight, overcome, and overthrow such a system. So, folks, I like to end here because we've gone slightly over 30 minutes. I didn't intend this news talk to be this long, but this is a very important and fundamental subject matter for people to understand. When you watch this, share it. When you watch this, bookmark this so that you find time and come back to it over and over. And then when you listen to me, when you watch this, look at the society, look at the community. You will understand why things are the way they are. And you will understand, therefore, that no time has ever been more propitious to question the status quo, to organize ourselves and to rise up to challenge this evil system that doesn't portend anything good for anyone. So anyone expecting emergence, you will realize that for a system like this one, they only govern by slogans. And governing by slogans will be the subject matter of our next news talk on Sunday, which will be the 30th of November, 2025. And so, folks, I'd like to, before I go, make this plea. If you are not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And then also make sure you personalize so that when anything drops on this platform, you will be the first to know. Because here, when the news drops, I come and together we make greater meaning out of it. Next, make sure you share and share as much as possible so we reach a greater audience always. But most importantly, if you want to continue seeing beautiful products like this, beautiful analysis like this, I need your help to sustain this media ecosystem. That is the free media ecosystem. A lot of people call from their communities who are foot soldiers, who are going from one part of our community to the other, trying to gather information on how we will be able to change our society. They always need help from me from this platform. And that is just so much for me to do this by myself. I require your assistance so that we should sustain this, so that we should be able to continue to build strong a strong foundation for the change we all seek, for the change we need. And if you want to help, use Amber Relief 2018 at gmail.com, either for Zelle or PayPal. I will pin this as the first comment on the comment section, and I'll be very delighted and thankful for the help that you bring. No help is small. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. See you later on the JMA Connections. To God be the glory.